Hi friends, welcome to the Very Occasional Podcast with Morgan Quaid, now painted silver so it reflects the sun's heat instead of absorbing it. This episode features the indie podcasting legend Kurt Sasso, creator of the Two Geeks Talking podcast, which has been running for longer than I've been alive, because I'm super young. You can find Kurt's podcast on YouTube or social media by searching for Two Geeks Talking, or by closing your eyes real tight and calling out Kurt's name. Before we get onto the show, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, because if I can get my channel to 500 subscribers, my baker is going to bake me up a loaf of bread shaped like a donut. Welcome to the Very Occasional Podcast with Morgan Quaid. I'm joined by Kurt Sasso from Two Geeks Talking, a legendary podcaster in the community, and we're going to learn a lot more about Kurt. I'm really pleased that you came along, so thank you very much for joining us.
Well, hey, whenever there's a new podcast, I'm always more than willing to be on this side of the microphone to be a guest. So I'm glad that you invited me. So thank you so much, Morgan.
You are welcome. You are in the easy seat, because you just get to talk about stuff and about you and all that sort of thing. You don't have to worry about the thing breaking. That's my job, which means it may well break. So let's talk a little bit about yourself. So I know you from the podcasting side of things, but there are depths of creativity that we haven't ever sort of gone in together. So tell us about yourself and how you got into the creative industry and what sort of areas you've sort of played in.
Well, my journey in creativity has been long and winding and never a straight path. It never really is in my area. But my original passion was computers. So I was in the IT industry for 20 years. I did everything that I could really do there, and it took a call center job for me to go back to university and get a double major in visual arts, communication, media, and film, and a minor in computer science, just because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, stack them all in there. That's the way.
Exactly. So the kicker with that degree was, when I say visual arts, what comes to mind for visual arts for you?
Painting stuff and, comic books and all that sort of stuff.
So it was literally, visual arts was fine arts. So painting, photography, drawing, take a mind of myself that has been logical for 20 plus years in IT and throw them into the deep end where we did color reels for our very first day of university. Wow. So it was a huge shift creatively for me in that regard. But I got to really find my photography skill set that I ended up loving more than anything else. And I got to be a producer for some short films and local cable access and a bunch of other things. So after that, I was still doing the show while I was going to university. So, a double major that was completed in 4 years, on top of TAing, on top of doing the show, on top of whatever else I was doing.
You're a glutton for punishment. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the photography side of things. What was it that first drew you to that? What did you like about it? What was your area that you really honed in on with photography?
I think it was the simplicity of using light and shadow. So I was doing more black and white. Well, I appreciate color. A lot of my subjects were models and were either art models or whatever. I even used myself as a subject for some of my pieces. But it was what can I do with the simplest amount of equipment and showcase different angles, showcase different subject matter, showcase the ability to, either show the body or show whatever my subject was at that particular time. And it was just a lot more freeing for me, because my uncle was, or rather is, an artistic person himself. And he kind of got me into photography because he was always one to do, you always have one family member that does the weird The subtle shots that are kind of off angle, like from the hip and all this other jazz. And it was really one of those, like, out of maybe 100 photos, 3 were okay. So that's kind of why I was trying to do a little more structured in that regard. But I found it was just an amazing expression and an amazing way to showcase talent. And that kind of tied into the podcasting and video interview side of things, because it was literally just a camera recording videos. So I could play with light, I could play with the subjects, do different angles, showcase other areas that were interesting, rather than the standard, here's a one-on-one interview and away we go. So
yeah.
Hi, I'm Kurt Sasso, and you're listening to the Very Occasional Podcast. You have to like, subscribe, and of course hit that bell to get your notifications. And if you've learned anything from the beginning or the end of this particular show, know this: we want you as a guest, no matter which show you choose. If it happens to be the Very Occasional Podcast, cool. If it happens to be Two Geeks Talking, great. I'm not trying to pit one show against the other, but both are awesome. Choose wisely. That's the main thing.
Choose wisely, people. So with either photography or podcasting, when did or has the idea of I need to monetize this, I need to make a living, has that come into the process, and how has that worked? Or has it more been, this is what I love, this is my passion?
I haven't found a good way to monetize it, and that's the issue. And speaking strictly from the show, Two Geeks Talking side of things, more than anything, the photography was just a good it was a good case of, this is what I like doing, but it's not going to make me any money. There's 1,000 photographers in the area type deal. You are one of, unless you have a specific set of doing weddings or doing whatever. It was never a business side of things that I wanted to do.
Right.
The show side of things, it's been a struggle in general, because it was originally monetized on YouTube 2016, 2018. It gets demonetized because YouTube just did a wide sweeping brush of anyone that wasn't over X amount of subscribers or X amount of hours, you lost monetization. And so for a show that's long format as it is, it's very difficult to gain attention and to gather people to continuously support this type of channel, because everything even back then was still going more towards short form content, because that's the way society is, with limited attention spans and limited time for that matter.
And I suppose so this brings us to a question about podcasts in general. Myself, I think it's a genius move on my part to wait for a pandemic to end, wait for people to start going back to work when they have less time, and then launch a podcast. I think that's a great idea on my part. So from your perspective, you've been running, so how long, first of all, have you been running Two Geeks Talking?
I'm started in 2008 officially. August 8th, 2008 is the official date, but technically it was July 24th, 2008, but that was a test podcast.
Right. Okay.
But it came back to, so we're starting our 15th year is what we're doing currently, or what I'm doing currently. I'm the only one doing this right now. So it's just been a wonderful journey overall, with changes in technology, with changes in guests, with repeat guests coming back, how their progress has expanded throughout the years, or what they've changed or what they've done differently. Like yourself, you've been on the show a couple of times, or you'll be on a second time coming up in a few weeks. So looking forward to chatting with you again. And no, you were already on. Never mind. I'm mixing up guests.
And then there's the question of when this one comes out as well. So it will be after the before of the after. Yeah, it's all very confusing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a long running podcast. You must have had, well, you have had hundreds of guests come in.
Thousands.
Oh wow, thousands. That's
1,000 guests plus. I've lost count at this point in time, but yeah, it's been, my official tagline is 1,000 plus interviews on Two Geeks Talking. And to a certain extent, that is true. I just don't know what the actual count is currently.
Yeah, and then it's the effort it would take to go back and get a lot of information. And yeah, let's not do that. That would be. I feel exhausted even thinking about it.
I was trying to update the IMDb page specifically for the show, just to kind of gauge exactly what I had done, and I got as far as 2011, 2012, and time was a factor, and other things crept up, etc. But it was just one of those things where it was like I was doing 200 plus interviews at comic conventions, from convention to convention, Chicago, Toronto, Detroit. I was doing a lot of interviews, one-on-one interviews, multiple guests on the show as well too. As you're aware, those are always tricky in some cases, shape or form. And so it just, I liked being consistent. I liked just doing something that I was good at, or I am still good at, I should say. And I like the people. I like chatting with creative people, because it's just something where I love seeing what they're doing creatively, because I'm not doing anything like that. I mean, other than putting an interview together and releasing it, that's the best I can really do, and promote it on social media. So I do. So
is there a sort of a sense of almost living vicariously through some of the guests that come through and getting to experience what they're doing?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of that as well too. But I have those all. I have.
I'm not the only one. Yay.
Yeah. I think it comes back to just seeing progress, seeing a creative process, seeing a person that maybe is new to comics or new to entertainment or whatever the case may be, and they need a platform. They need somewhere to promote themselves, because social media, you can only do so much. If you're an artist, you have a better time at promoting yourself, because people love art for the 3 seconds to get their attention. You do a podcast, you do a show, they have to either listen to it as they're driving to work, which is why I think with this show itself, you're in a good avenue for that, because people will still listen to a podcast while they're driving to work, while they're doing all that stuff. So you'll be okay.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And what so digging a bit deeper into the podcast side of things, and this is strictly not self-serving, advice to a new podcaster coming in. What are some of the things that you would say, are important things they need to think about?
It depends on the podcast. First off, if it is a single host that's talking about subject matter, research it. I mean, research is always key for no matter what show you do. That's necessary, whether you're interviewing a guest, whether you're reviewing a show that you like, or whether it's a movie you happen to be at a midnight release for, etc. Things like that. You should research what you're viewing, rather than just taking Wikipedia at face value. Technology wise, though, you should have a good microphone. You should have if you're doing video, then have at least one good light, or two if you can afford it, and definitely put more time into your audio. Cameras are upgrading every single time. I have a camera from like 10 years ago that still does 1080p perfectly fine, as you can see, and I love what it does, so I don't have to upgrade it. But the audio equipment I've upgraded many times over. This is, I think, my second or third microphone in 15 years. So you put the money into it, and you're going to get good audio, and I think that's the main thing, because if people can hear you, then you're doing a good job. But if you're dealing with low quality, then they're going to turn you off, and you're going to lose a person that you maybe originally had as interested in your work.
Now let's talk a little bit about guests. So have you had any guests that, and I'm guessing 1,000 plus this would have happened, guests that either there's just nothing there, you're trying to dig for something interesting, and then how do you again, asking for a friend. How do you kind of work your way around that when you've got a guest that they're not made for this sort of format?
So I call it pulling teeth. That's the unofficial term of those types of guests. If you're pulling teeth, you're not going to be able to get it. Now, there's a number of factors to that. Are they severely introverted? Are they not comfortable enough speaking about themselves? There are a variety of things that can cause a guest to not be able to speak. Maybe they had a bad day, whatever the case may be. Have I had guests like that? I've had 6 that I can recall. One person was repeat 3 times. Now, why would I have that guest on multiple times when I know that they are struggling to talk about themselves? That would be one of my questions. So I'll quickly fill it.
Let's pretend I've asked that. Yeah, let's pretend it was a really insightful question that I just asked. Yeah.
It was to promote their comic. They had been low in promoting themselves, or maybe they looked they were not mentally focused, or whatever the case may be with the first couple. Maybe they got better after a few years. That wasn't the case, unfortunately, but it's a matter of helping them out. There's only so much you can do, yes, as a guest, or rather as a host. And there's only so much you can do as a guest if you're not quite into it. If you can't talk about your work, no one else is going to pay attention to it. No one else is going to care about it. If you can't care about your own stuff, then, why are you promoting yourself on a show? Is it a sense of, I have to do this, or is it a sense of, I really need to do this? But, I don't know. It's up to that person. So.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of people are know that somehow they've done something creative, they know that they need to get the word out there, but that's it? Do you find people that are just they don't really know what am I talking about? What am I presenting to the world? Why am I doing this? Or is it more just a mechanical kind of issue?
Trying to word it. It's a personality trait, really, is what at least the cases I dealt with, it was more of a personality where they were introverted, to the point of closing themselves down. Now,
right, okay,
nothing I can do about that. Wish I could. But unfortunately, it's been very few and far between. So a lot of the guests that I've had on are either seeking the show out to promote themselves, or they've heard about it from a friend of a friend and they're willing to promote themselves. But it just comes back to, are you comfortable talking about yourself? And a lot of people truly aren't. I wasn't for a good number of years as well too, which is kind of probably why I did this show. Break out of my own shell.
Yeah. No, it's good to know. And I mean, that's a pretty small number of people that aren't, willing to get out and have a chat.
Yep. I mean, you'll eventually run into it. I don't think you will. You're a very approachable person, Morgan, as well too. So I think you'll be okay in that regard. If you weren't able to talk about what you love doing, then I don't think you would even attempt to podcast personally.
No. And it is a curious thing with a lot of creative, but maybe it's not curious, with a lot of creative people. And I think I had this for a long time as well. I've got these things that I've made. I'm desperate for people to read them or to view them or whatever, but I do not want my face out there in public for a long time. Now, for me, it was more an issue. I'm not, it's not a shy thing. It's more, I have a day job and I have to kind of be a bit serious for that day job. And I can't sort of be, hey, funny guy, weird face, sort of plastered all over the internet. So there was a lot of that for me initially. And I think a lot of people maybe have that.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. I've had a guest recently where they didn't want their face shown because they were going to school and
for
art, which is what they were promoting. So I can understand that if they were, say, young, or if they want to protect their anonymity or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
It happens. So you take what you get, and if you put an image on for their face, then so be it. And if they can talk about their work, then that's what it boils down to. But 90% of the people that come on the show are in some way, shape, or form introverted. So,
wow, yeah, it's that artist squirreling away, in the dark with it, by the light of a
candle.
Yeah, it's that whole thing. And I mean, there's some simplistic ways of looking at it, but the way I've heard it described, the whole, if there is a dichotomy between introvert and extrovert and all that sort of stuff, I'm sure it's a lot more complicated and fluid than that. But I've heard it said, it's where you derive your energy from. So if I'm at a party or a gathering of people, that will suck the energy out of me moment by moment by moment. And I'll have a limited span before I start ranting and raving and getting angry at the walls and everything else. So when I go home and I'm on my own and I'm writing or doing something solo, that's when I get my energy and enough strength. Whereas I believe, I'm not one myself, but I believe the extroverts among us are the complete opposite. They get charged by being around other people and tend not to have an internal monologue and just sort of vocalize everything, which for people like us is like, why are you saying everything that comes into your head? Are you searching for the perfect voiceover artist for your next project? Well, look no further. For an excessively reasonable price, Morgan Quaid will provide professional voiceover services to meet your needs. Want an American voiceover with fire in the belly? Well, check this out. G'day, man. I love these American hot dogs. They're ace. Looking for a distinguished British accent? Well, look no further. I greatly enjoy these scones at Crumpets. Also, I'm quite fond of tea. Or perhaps you're looking for a character actor to voice the strong female lead in your next upcoming feature. Hi, I'm a lady person. Now put down that sword, or I'll give you what for. Whatever your need, whatever your budget, there's no job too small or lucrative for Morgan Quaid, voiceover expert and creative genius. So have there been any moments in your extensive podcasting career where something has happened? Now, I take it, first of all, your show's hasn't been live this whole time, or has it sort of been a bit of both?
The first 4 years were a live podcast. So,
oh wow, okay.
People could call in and they could be a guest on the show, and if there was someone scheduled, then obviously they would take priority. And audio quality back then was really horrible. There's a long story to that, but I've done live shows before. They're good to a certain extent if you have everything set up and everything ready to go and you have a schedule. But if you do multiple interviews, or say you're doing multiple interviews on, say, a Saturday or something like that, and they're back to back, you want a break. You want to be able to decompress between interviews. At least I do. I don't know about others, but you just want to be able to separate yourself from the work, from the show, and just take some time for yourself to just recharge my introverted battery, so I can go back and pretend I'm an extrovert. So.
All very, very familiar to me. Very familiar. So that leads to the question, has anything happened on air, as they say, or during a recording that has really taken your breath away a little bit, in a kind of like, oh, I need to back away from this, or this is a bit too...
Not from a live sense. Now, there's a lot of stuff when I edit that doesn't make it to the show.
Right.
To a certain extent. There are some jokes that may be said, or there's some points that go a little too heavy religious, or just things that just wouldn't be good entertainment. It's few and far between, to be honest. A lot of the stuff I edit is just the ums and the ahs and the ands. It's the common stuff that we all say. like
Yeah.
etc. So things that you could easily cut out. Or a person talks and they lose the train of thought, or another train of thought comes in that overlaps what they were saying. So trying to clean things up like that. That's usually 99% of the extent of my editing. But there have been times where a guest has been on the show where they've inadvertently talked about something that would affect their personal life or their work, and they've asked to have that taken out. And
Okay.
and it's understandable if they're, say, a psychologist, or if they're working on a one-on-one and something just leaks out. I get it. That there's a common courtesy when it comes to being a host on the show, and there's a lot of stuff that you can ask, saying, while you're doing a pre-recorded interview, you can at least give the guest the caveat to say, if there's anything on the show that just you don't want, let me know. I'll take it out. I'll clean it up so that it doesn't get missed. And there have been times I've asked questions where the answers that have been given have just not gotten anything interesting, or it just went in a completely different direction that just wasn't good entertainment, or just didn't really fit the question I was asking. So things like that do happen. I mean, not all my questions are going to land. I get it.
Yeah, I've had a few where I've asked a question that I thought was directed in one way, and the answers I repeatedly get back are telling me, nope, you're asking this question the wrong way. They're not getting it because you're not clearly. And some others are just, it's down to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Is there? This is we should have a corny alert, because this is going to be a super corny one.
So are you gonna have your logo like come up in the middle and just start twirling and then come back out?
Oh, I should do the twirl. I should do the Batman twirl. I will do that. I'm in fact making a note right now for the Batman.
Look, I do consulting for podcasting as well too. I don't know if people understand that, because I'd like to make money from that.
Already, I think this is this has been worth it for me. The twirling Batman thing. Corny alert. So is there an individual or a type of person that you would love to be able to get sit down on the podcast and have a chat with?
I think I wouldn't mind interviewing actor Elliot Hale. No, sorry, Elliot. Oh gosh, what's his name?
I'm looking it up.
No, it's not Hale. It's Elliot Page. That's it. Thank you.
Right,
I didn't think about that.
Oh, Elliot Page. Yeah. Okay.
I would love to interview him. I think his overall career has been incredible. I think it would be a wonderful conversation, one Canadian to another. I really think it would be just something where my style of questions that I get to ask, that I do ask, I should say, would benefit a deeper meaning to his style of acting and his overall career. So I think it would be interesting. At least that would be something I'd love to do.
Well, I'm sure he watches this podcast religiously. So, Elliot, if you're out there, one Canadian to another, get in contact with Kurt and get on that podcast. And my only request is, if that by any chance happens, please send him my way after you've had your chat.
Not a problem. You'll be the first one on the list. I'll send it to his PR manager. But another person that's actually coming back, who I'm actually really excited for, is possibly, I don't know if it's going to be both of them, but Phil Folio, the ever talented artist from Girl Genius Online, and his wife Kaja. I hope Kaja can come on the show, because Phil was one of the very first interviews I got on Two Geeks Talking, or TGT webcomics, way back when I was first starting in my first year. And I think that's going to be incredible. I can't wait to just speak with him, and hopefully Kaja comes on, because the two times I've gotten to speak to Phil, there's always been a co-host with me. So this will be a nice one-on-one interview, or if Kaja comes on as well too, I get to finally pick their brains because they've been in the industry for 40 plus years and just an amazing style from Magic the Gathering to their own webcomic to everything in between. So I'm really excited about that one. That's going to be a huge one where I'll probably put off editing all these other interviews I have scheduled to edit, and I'll just focus on that one.
That's fair enough. That's the privilege of being the podcaster. So that brings me to an impromptu question.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us, I mean, I'm talking to the king of Two Geeks Talking, so there's no need to offer apologies at all. So we're talking Magic the Gathering, monocolor. What is your deck preference going to be?
So I have a soft spot for red.
Aggressive, no?
It is, because my very first Magic the Gathering deck was goblins, and this was in a time where the ever stifling control deck of white blue was in play, and it was before Origins. It was 2011 to 2012, 2013 was when I started playing for the most part.
Right.
I can't recall. I got 3 bankers boxes full of Magic Gathering boxes and boosters and decks and everything like that. And it was just one of those things that it's safe to say I have an addictive personality. So when I go into something, I go all into something, unfortunately, to the detriment of my bank account. So a professor at the University of Windsor got me into Magic the Gathering, and it was because of we were on a film set, so I was working on a feature film, and he got at least 12 of us into Magic the Gathering because that's what a good professor does. And so we were playing between takes, and we'd have our decks and do everything like that, and so it was just a fun, quick way to play some great games. And I've always had a variation of either red blue or red or red green, the occasional maybe black red, but nothing too crazy. I think I did a mono white at one point, but that was just when everything was easy to game life and just smash. So
just keep building and building and building that kingdom.
Yeah, I'm a simple Magic Gathering player. I'm not into the complex, tap this, do this, exile this to get this. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah. There you go. Well, congratulations. That is the first Magic the Gathering question I've asked on the show as yet. Awesome. So that's very good. I may add that as a regular feature. And if people say, "Oh, what's Magic the Gathering?" I will say, "Stay with me after this," and I will educate you on what you should be playing.
Well, then you should have Sean Daly on your show. He's a big Magic the Gathering player as well, and there's a few others I've had on in the past where I've done an overrated, underrated Magic the Gathering edition too. So that had been So that's been fun.
I had not even considered that whole area, but now that I'm thinking it, I'm thinking I get these people on, I can talk to them and gain skills from them, and then smash my son at the Magic and indeed the Gathering.
If your son is beating you, you need to step up your game.
he occasionally he will, but Daddy still rules the roost in MTJ. But
that's good.
Yeah, I know the day is coming because he has a mind for it, and he has the patience to read everything, and I do not have the patience to do that. I'm too busy making podcasts and serious business like that.
Well, okay, what's your deck then?
My deck of preference is going to be super boring to everyone. If it's monocolor, it's just going to be white all the way to town.
Wow.
Just white. A lot, to the point where my wrist is getting sprained from the life counters that I'm constantly ticking over. And I've brought out another cat usually or something like that, and it's triggering 50 different things, and I just like that. But I am partial to the red blue RAL kind of spells going off left, right, and center, all that sort of stuff. I do quite like that. Oh, and I have a one of my favorite decks is called Crack-a-Lacken, which is the kraken and the tentacle one that you draw.
Oh, yeah.
It's got that with Cavalcade of Calamity, I think it's called, the red one that does 1 damage. Anyway, we're getting really deep into there, but
MTG,
deep. But it's great fun. Okay,
yeah,
I love it. Absolutely.
It's been about 4 years since I've played, so I'm a little rusty, a lot rusty, I should say.
So tell us a little bit about the film work that you've done, or working in that sort of industry. What was it like? What sort of stuff did you do? Is George Clooney shorter than everyone thinks?
Tom Cruise is. He's about my height now. He's actually 3 inches taller than me, supposedly. The for me, because I'm in Canada, we have our Canadian film industry. I didn't do too much of it, but I've been on the occasional feature film to assist in more DIT work, which is the digital imaging technician, which transfers all the footage from, the important footage from hard drives to a backup drive to a duplicate backup drive, so that they can save both audio and video, and organizes it by day and scene and all that other stuff. So it makes the editor's job a lot easier, so that they can put it into their software, whatever they're using, Avid or Final Cut or whatever the case may be, for their editing side of things. So the director and the DOP can review dailies, they can review everything along that line, see if maybe there was like a soft focus that the cameraman got. Sometimes they'll look at it on the same day, so that they can maybe reshoot a scene while they have the location. That's what I like doing. I do like video editing as well too, but that's the brief extent to what I've done. And I've made short films, and I've produced short films as well, and ran a few Kickstarters to help promote the DVD creations of those. And you become a jack of all trades in the film industry, and it's a good passion of mine. It's something that I could pursue, but I'd have to move 4 hours away to really be in the heart of the industry that's up in Toronto. So,
right, and that's a whole thing, upping and moving and all that sort of stuff.
The cost is just ridiculous up there. It's the whole of the conversation.
Right, I understand. So, in terms of Two Geeks Talking, where would you like it to head, or have you got thoughts on, okay, what's the next sort of phase, or is it let's just keep going, see what happens, see what opportunities come up?
I don't know. That's the problem. I have ideas. I would love to get it more consistent. Well, it's actually been really consistent this year, to be honest, and getting a more consistent release schedule has been my thing. Like getting a Wednesday release for the rapid interviews, as well as the Friday release for past interviews that are scheduled to be released. Maybe it's not the best day to release a show. I'm still trying to figure that out, but at least if I'm consistent in that regard, I can, showcase it to conventions, or showcase it to maybe some online presence or other shows, or link up with other YouTube channels or whatever. But I know I'm going to have to eventually segue from this long format and start chopping up the content to release it into shorts, into TikTok, into Instagram Reels, into the YouTube Shorts, because that's the only way people are actively viewing content. That's the only way you can get, if you're not 1,000 subscribers and not over 4,000 hours watched, the only way you can get 4,000 hours watched is if someone's or multiple people are repeatedly reviewing or rewatching a 1 minute video.
Yeah.
Or 30 seconds or whatever. And it's just, everything is against content creators that don't do short content.
Yeah.
And as a single person doing all of this, it is very difficult to actively, not only are you scrubbing through an entire interview, you've also already edited that down to the point where it's released in a 1 hour segment. And then you have to take segments of that 1 hour. Let's say it's an hour, it could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever. You have to take and chop up maybe a 3 minute clip down to 30-second bits where a person's head's jumping all over the place as they're talking about the point that they want to talk about, so that someone can repeatedly view it on TikTok. And it's something that I have to do. And it's just, it is very difficult to cut up something that you already put hours into, to break it down even farther to its bare bones, to release it for extra content. And I don't have the time for that. I would rather release everything at one complete chunk that people can view, that people can watch, that they can actively click, like, and subscribe and share the interviews. That's the key factor, because if I get 10 views on a video, great. That's awesome. It's not happening for a lot of them. Maybe it's going to 20, maybe it's going to 30. I mean, I had Biff Naked, a Canadian rock star, on the show, got maybe 100 views at most.
Wow. And
it was a tight 30 minutes that actually 20 minutes. I cut down a lot. So everything is against me already. And the fact that I keep doing this, either I'm a glutton for punishment, as I said earlier on, or I think that there's something valid about the content I'm releasing, because these people need a platform. And if I don't do it, another show will, which is great. And that's their prerogative, and that's wonderful to see. And the more people that can interview said guest, whoever that may be, is getting their name out there as well too. But I'm sure there's different models that I could approach or could try that I haven't looked at or haven't had time to look at, and adjust the show accordingly. But when can I do that? When I've already released almost 90 interviews this year alone, and we're already in September. Like, I don't know what else I can do.
Yeah, it's unless you've done it, you don't really understand how much work is involved, and how for my own part, I started this. The thing that stopped me from starting it for quite a while was knowing what that workload would be, and that I'm a month, not even a month into it, a few years down the track, let's see how motivated I am to get it and edit, all of these episodes. But talking as an indie creator, being able to get on a show like Two Geeks Talking and talk about your project and get it out there and all that sort of stuff is hugely helpful and valuable. And you're right, there's just not a lot of places to do that. And you're small enough that you can't get the publicity of a national news or anything like that. And
it's a constant battle, where to the point that I'm at the point that I don't care about the national coverage, because I know I'm not going to get it. So let's focus on what I can control. I can control the guests. I can control the content that gets released. I can control the quality of the content that gets released, because my job is not only interviewing these people, but making them look good, because that's why I'm taking 6 hours to edit a video interview. That's why I'm cleaning up your thought processes and making it sound like you had a complete thought to begin with. That's why I'm showcasing your talent and your books. And I've done other little cues as well too, where, like, I had an interview with Lisa S. Johnson, who's an author for. She's a photographer, a Canadian photographer, and an author for rock guitars. She does photo books of
cool,
like rock and roll guitars that we know and love, from Elvis to anyone you can think of. She's done. So I did an interview with her, and it was a short, quick interview, because you deal with the time limits of famous people. And I included images of the rock guitars that she was talking about. So there's a visual element to that as well too. Find a good image that showcases not only the photo that she took in the book, but also showcases that maybe at a live event, things like that. And I just wanted to do something different as well too. And just because talking heads are fine if the content is interesting and entertaining, and people are going to get value out of it. Visuals are also a good medium for that as well too, but it takes time. You have to sync it up to the point that the guest is making. You have to fade it in, and maybe if it's a 2-shot like this, it's going to go like It's going to go right in the center of, our two heads. Okay, now you have to resize it. Now you got to do all of the stuff. So, oh, did you happen to live switch to that person while they were making the same point about said guitar? Oh, now you got to cut that, move it over to right beside them so that it doesn't block their head. Little things like that people on this side of the microphone don't understand, because it is so time consuming and so necessary, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you can, and I suppose that's what's appealing about the some of the podcasts that are just live, and just they'll put a caveat up front. There's going to be swearing, there's going to be views that are out there and everything, and they just let it go. But I don't know, I like a nicely edited podcast. I think it really shines through. Yeah. It's easy on the ears, it's easy to digest, and in the end, I think it makes a big difference for sure.
But it's so valuable though to have something like this, because maybe you had an hour and a half interview with a guest, and realistically, not all of that's going to be usable, quite literally. Like, I've cut an hour and a half down to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's doable. You want to make it at least semi good, hopefully.
Yeah. That's what we're aiming for, people. At least semi-good. Semi-good. All right. Well, that leads us to the next segment. Speaking of semi-good, we're moving on to the worst pitch. For those that don't know, this is a pitch for a film, TV show, book, anything like that. And we're looking for something that is truly ghastly, which is proving to be a bit of a struggle so far, because no matter what people come up with, they all have some inkling of a good idea. So I'll give you the option, Kurt. You can go first if you like, or you can let me go first, and that'll give you a bit of time to come.
I'll let you go first, because I can go pretty warped, and I just have to figure that out first. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll go first then. So I thought of this previously, but I did the whole first thing to come to the mind, that sort of thing. So it's called the Chair Leg Diaries, and it is the memoir of a chair in a sort of recreational hall sort of center, that sort of place. It's a memoir of that chair, talking about the various people that sat on it during its time. That's all.
Interesting. I mean, you could take it a step further, and the gaseous tales of a chair in Alexa.
The various heat levels and stench and all the rest of it. And, yeah.
The piano got more action than the chair. I'm just saying. You know how seagulls are garbage eaters? Well, one seagull has the dream to become a world-renowned Michelin star chef, but because they only have garbage around them, they open up a local garbage restaurant.
Like a garbage restaurant. Got you. Okay, I missed the seagull. I thought you said seagull as in the surname of a chef that exists, and I was thinking, who is this chef Seagull? He must be big in Canada.
And here's the kicker: they have a competition from the local trash panda, which happens to be a runaway panda from the LA Zoo.
We see. I mean, if you're talking, particularly an animated kids show, that's it. That's a good idea. It's got a lot in there, particularly, and you bring the panda in, and he's got a friend and a.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really hard to come up with just a dud of an idea. They all have something.
It really depends on how dark you want to go, though, because you can really push that envelope. But
yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I suppose that would be the darkest pitch, which would be a different segment, maybe on a different channel. The special After Dark channel.
Yeah, the very occasional After Dark show.
Yeah,
After hours.
See it now. After hours, yes. Yeah. So let's move on to rapid fire questions. First question. You've got a choice between one. You have to choose Star Trek, Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Wow, just no hesitation whatsoever. I find this the people that choose Star Trek equivocate for a little bit and go back and forth and then say, but I would have to go. The Star Wars fans just straight in, bang, Star Wars.
But here's the thing: I like both. That's the kicker, and so it's
Yeah.
as a geek that has a geek show, it is very difficult for me to choose one or the other. I'm going to caveat that, but for rewatchability, I think for me it would be the original Star Wars and then the 7, 8, 9. So I'm okay with those.
Okay. Star Wars it is. I've got to say, everything is heavily tilted towards Star Wars at the moment, so far in this little social experiment of mine.
Interesting.
Okay, so you're allowed to have, not only are you allowed to have, you have to have one tattoo on your person. You've got no other tattoos. What is that tattoo, and where would that be?
Shoulder, any shoulder for me, because back is just too painful because you're on the spine. That's just ridiculous. Shoulder blades would be horrible. Feet would be awful. Behind the ear would be just brutal. It's not like I haven't thought about this whatsoever.
Wow. Yeah.
For me, because I did martial arts for a good number of years, I always wanted either a torii gate and a samurai sword, like whatever angle. Didn't matter.
Nice.
I wouldn't get any characters because that's just a recipe for disaster. Why do you have sweet and sour pork on your shoulder? But I thought it meant honor, love, cherish. You know? Didn't work
I read
out
it on the
way.
menu. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a number 6 combo. You know, it was great. But no, either shoulder, torii gate with samurai katana of some kind.
That's pretty cool, and I must say, pretty classy as well. That's a good choice. Good choice, if I do say so. All right, the hardest or one of the hardest fictional deaths you've had to deal with, either in film, TV, comics, books, anything, and it can be from any age.
Spoiler alert on this one, if those that have never played this game. It would have to be Aerith in Final Fantasy VII being killed by Sephiroth.
Right.
That came out of freaking nowhere, literally. Like, just
knocked you for 6.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, really? Like, and
wow.
I had 99 Phoenix feathers as well too, so I could have revived repeatedly, and nope.
There you go. Well, that again, this is a podcast of first. That you're the first person to pick someone from a game rather than. Okay. So, well done. Very good. All right. Future generations. You know, in a post-apocalyptic sort of scenario, you have one toy from your childhood that you're allowed to pass on to the future. What is that toy that you pass on?
A stuffed turtle. So
got it.
Back when I was really young, I was given a gift, as young kids are. They're usually, you're given a stuffed animal of some kind.
Yeah. Bear,
whatever. I happen to get a turtle, which is a beautiful little thing about this big. It's felt, it's soft. You know, it was great when I was a kid. Yellow and blue shell. Used it in a painting I did actually at university, ironically. So that was always fun. But that would be the one thing I would hand off to future generations. And if they treated it poorly, I would come back from the grave and I would kill them.
Fair enough. So there's a connection to this turtle. Does it have a name that you're willing to share?
It was originally named Shelly.
Good name. That's a solid name for a turtle. It's a very
that's the limit of my naming capabilities back then.
But you know, there are kind of connotations of, you know. Well, no, you're just naming it after the shell. Yeah, really. I was looking for something deeper. There's not really.
There is no. There was
yeah,
no.
it's just name what you see.
Yeah.
Which is well, okay. I'm gonna do something I have not done. So give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my answer to this question, which is a stuffed gorilla. Let's see if I can sort this out.
There you go.
See that little guy there? Yeah.
Actually, hold on a second.
So this little guy is called Ugly. So Shelley, Ugly. Oh, hang on, let me go. Oh, okay. So we've got, that is Shelley, and this is Ugly.
So, or I preferably call him Turtle now. So
Turtle. There you go. Well, yeah. So I can't really get upset with you for naming a turtle Shelley when I just named a gorilla Ugly because, well, I think he's beautiful, but he looked a bit ugly when he was.
Well, as long as the eyes don't follow you, that's the main thing.
They 100% do. They completely follow you. I had him over in the corner there, and my son came in this morning and pointed to it and said, "Why is he staring at me like that, Dad?" And I said, "Because he knows what you've done, son. He knows what you've done."
Let's cause trauma when they're X amount of years old.
Yeah, that's right. That's the first time that little guy has been shown in public.
Same
So there you go. We're not only are we promoting people and creative types, we're promoting stuffed animals as well from our childhood. Okay, so you don't have to work for money anymore. Let's suppose something happens and you get huge amount of money just dropped in your lap. Never need to work another day. What are you doing with yourself?
Well, I mean, for me, I would just keep doing what I'm doing here. I mean, I would probably update a few things technology wise, maybe take a trip because I love traveling. I mean, you can't do it now with the COVID pandemic, but if ever that, resolves itself, medically, it'd be great to travel again. Something I've always loved doing. But I think for me, it would be, upgrade some more equipment, maybe, figure something out that way, do a little more advertising for the show itself, maybe approach different avenues of getting this onto more of a national stage. I think that would be the main thing. I mean, also, help pay off anything that my folks have as well too. I'm not being selfish here. So,
Yeah, that's all a given. Yeah.
Oh,
Looked after your folks and all that sort of stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
So I would just be literally doing kind of the same old stuff that I am doing, just a little more updated. So I'm a simple person, truly and honestly, talk with people because I love talking to people, promote people because I love promoting people, give them a platform to showcase themselves and maybe get myself a better haircut because it really needs it right now. So we'll go from there, but just take care of myself as best as I can for however many years left I have in life.
Okay, so this is the part of the podcast where I come back on and patch up the mistakes that I made throughout. One of which was I forgot to thank Kurt for his time. So a belated thank you, Kurt, for spending some time with me, having a little chat. All the best with Two Geeks Talking, and I will see you in the near future.